All right, as promised, full stack 2, assignment 2, or assignment 1 for full stack 2, but this is a continuation of our previous course and the application. So I'll quickly go over this and I'll demo what I got. Okay, as we said, Monday, November 7th, so that's 2 weeks, 25% of the grade, so you got 2 weeks to do this. Objective, the document contains specification. So really what we want is we want to build a dynamic web interface using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So yes, previously we had the static interface. So now we're bringing it to life with JavaScript. Obviously we want, it's targeting 2 students, that'd be great. But if you can do it by yourself, that's fine too. But it's definitely a group project. Again, the user interface is HTML5 CSS and JavaScript. And we already had a working base, which was our original interface that you submitted previously, right? So for this one, we want to bring this to life. So sometimes I hear about an MVP, so minimum viable product. So we want to have this at a minimum. This is what should our interface should do. We should have that search form with some criteria, and when we trigger the search, the end goal is it's going to filter some static data for us and display the results in the search table. We should have our album cover list will be retrofitted to be a favorites kind of container of album covers, and then that search result container should have some data rows, and we should have, I think we may have added one column, but we've actually added another button. So it doesn't seem like much for the MVP, but when you start digging into it, it definitely can take a little bit of time to put together smoothly. But so firstly, we have this music search form. This form should have text inputs, artist, song, album. So I believe we just added this album. The criteria for it should be case insensitive. So that means, if you have all uppercase or a mixture of uppercase, Pascal case, whatever went in your search when you're looking for that, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter in your matches. Also, a drop-down list for genre. Again, you should have 3 options. I saw some people just had a text box. That is, in fact, a drop-down list. We'll demo it in a second. The search form should submit without reloading the entire page. So we'll look at that in a second. You're going to obviously add an event handler for the search button. If there is criteria there, you need to trigger it. Otherwise, if there is no criteria, you need to actually inform the user. Now, I don't care if you use like a Windows prompt, it doesn't have to be fancy. Also, you will also kick off a search using either the search button click or pressing enter key in any input text box. So you're going to have to figure out those event handlers for those actions and add them to each control. And then obviously, if you have a reset button, it'll clear out all your criteria. So that's what mine looks like. Yours may not look like that at all. I spent a little bit of time, not much, right? I could still do a lot better here, but I haven't spent too much time with CSS. I just made it look a little bit better. I put a background in it just to kind of remind myself of Napster. Change the colors a little bit to match that. I didn't really do anything with the focus, but so anyhow, as you notice here, if I do a hard page refresh, this is all I get in the initial page load. If I click search right away, you can see there my arrow is turning to a cursor there across the buttons. That's a styling thing you can add. So if I click search, it's going to say enter search criteria, please. Obviously, there is nothing entered. So if I dismiss that, again, this is not a drop down. This is not a text box. In fact, this is a control, like a selector data list. It looks like a text box. You should have at least 3 genres here, and your data when we get into that should at least match those. So, right, I'll just select this. If I enter some criterion here, doesn't matter what it is. If I click reset, it should clear all my selection, right? We'll get into some of the other criteria. So if I Select hard rock and click search. You can see now my grid is displayed now. Should pretty much be the same. I don't think I've added much aside from some extra, another column there, but anyhow, so if I reset this and then I go to, again, I have no selection here, search, it says, okay, please enter that criteria. So now you're kind of seeing the searching working. If I want to search lowercase, kiss, oh, it didn't actually work. Why is that? Let's see for a second. Yeah, I don't have that. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. For mine, there's a bug, right? I have to probably select the genre, and then I'll get that one. Okay, so maybe that's a bug for my searching there. Right. I probably have an and or statement in there. So there you go there. So it's lowercase. It could in fact be all uppercase. Again, when you are doing your own debugging and testing, you'll run into some of this stuff. So I have one. So if I reset this and then I grab a different one, you can see it basically does a different result set. And the same thing, if I clear this out and I grab hip hop, then I have a smaller list, just 3 items. So try to get, when we're talking about data, try to get a mixture of data so you can work on that. And again, it should filter on each criteria, on each text box. And you should be able to, I guess, like do an advanced search, right? So if you wanted, say, if you wanted the album of hits, all right, so let's maybe do hits here. So I should have 2, all right, hits. And then if I wanted to just grab, I don't know, song, city, should return 1. Okay, so we kind of have some advanced filtering going on. So you may have some logic where you're combining your criteria, whether with and or statements or what have you. At the same time, the tricky thing will be negating anything that is empty, right? So you need to make sure that the ones that are empty are not included in your filter. So you need to negate those, right? So in your logic, you're gonna have all the criterias, but if something's not there, there's no point in searching for an artist that's null or empty. You just negate that and or logic, and then you move on to criteria that is actually given for that. So that kind of demonstrates this filtering. I kind of demoed how the filtering itself would work, but let's look at the table itself. So I mean, really, we've kind of already looked at the table a little bit, but the criteria for that will be, actually, sorry, I'm skipping ahead here, sorry. All right, this is going to be, well, it doesn't really matter here. I already started on this. So the search results are a dynamic container, as we showed. It basically is displaying the results from that criteria, the form. If you notice, the page is not reloading. It's not doing a hard refresh. It's staying here, which means I have taken over the default behavior of that form, because it probably wants to post back the page in a hard refresh, which would lose everything. So we need to kind of take control of that, probably prevent some default behavior. If you notice, the search result has this visibility. When page load, you'll see that there is no header, right? There's only header. The table shows only when I have criteria. So if I select hip hop, you'll see the whole thing shows up based on whether or not I have results or not. Each data row will contain artist, song, time, album rating, and genre. I'm not sure, to be honest. We may have added probably genre here. We hadn't previously had that, I think. In the last iteration of this, what else is new? Download has already been there. And so we pretty much, not doing much with the download button yet. I envision in full stack number 3, we will use that to the server, right? But at least we're gonna wire up an event handler on it. When we click it, each child row, that button will actually just pop up something saying download started. So we actually have captured that, download started. So we know that event is ready to go whenever we have a use for it. We're just demonstrating that click handler is on there. We also want to do, this is where things is interesting here. We also want, for the favorite as well, we want to be able to click that. What will happen is it will tie into the favorites, because if you notice now, we don't have any of those album covers. So if I click Gin and Juice, favorite, you'll see the album cover has been pulled from the static data collection, and I have that selected album cover right there. So let's actually look at that criteria, the requirements for this. So we have a favorites list. Previously it was a static album cover, but now we can see what our use for it is. It's going to be a dynamic list. Obviously, we're going to be manipulating the DOM, traversing the DOM, all that stuff with events. There will be a little bit of tricky stuff in there, linking the correct cover with what you've selected. And again, if you're gonna, ideally when we get to the data part, you want like 15 to 20 different kind of songs, which means 15 to 20 different album covers. So you just need to do a little bit of work, grab them, build your data out. So an image will be added to this container when you click the favorite button in the result search table. Images will be removed from this favorite list, this container. When you click on the image, the favorite list should remain for each search submission. So what that's saying is if I go along here and I just start clicking a bunch of stuff in here, right? And if I don't want one, I can just remove it by clicking on it. When I do another search for a different search criteria, suppose I want to grab some other kind of genre. So if I want to go through here and grab this, then I can I can build my list up as I'm going, right? And then switch to another criteria. So I have a little bit of a bug. My drop down should be a little bit more intuitive than that. All right, so if I wanted to, just continue on with that, right? So, and again, you could handle. I've seen some people had like a carousel that was pretty nice with Bootstrap. I'm going to show this is my version here to show you, but I may spend a bit more time just for the bonus marks and show you what that may look like when we get back from intersession. I may add some Bootstrap if I have time and put a carousel on this and stuff. But usually, to be honest, that's just the way I work. I leave the styling to last. I get everything working first. To me, the styling in my mindset is the least important for me. Whereas if you're a designer, it's the most important thing, right? So for me, I kind of work that way. And again, I'm fine if it overflows. I mean, it'd be nice if you have like some CSS to have some scrolling here. But I mean, if I kept adding and, doesn't matter, like it'll probably spill over into the next row, which is totally fine, right? And then, yeah. So again, if this list is getting too hard to manage, right, I just start taking away some things and then I get back to where I was previously, right? So if I'm just reducing my list. Now, if I do a hard refresh right now, it'll go away. However, there's a bonus mark that deals with local storage, which means if you get that far, like if you select a bunch of things, if you select a bunch of things, when you refresh it, it would stay in storage, and so you could actually reload your favorites. It would show up there. So if we haven't covered that, but if you could do that, it'd be great. Yes, that's a little bit of a bonus mark. So anyhow, those are the three main things. I mean, it may look straightforward, but once you get into it, you'll see when your little things take the small things take the most time. So one note on the data. So this data for this application is static data structure. Okay, we're going to be using arrays within your page. You're not going to be using a third-party API, and you're not going to retrieve anything from the database. We're going to use our knowledge of arrays and our knowledge of objects to build this out. So that means you may need to seed your data. What seed means is that you may need to create that array, or you can hard code the array, whatever works best for you. But that's what we're going to be working with. And you may need more arrays, right, to handle some of these clicks, right? Different favorites, say. You need to keep track of what you favorited compared to your original list. Minimum 15 to 20 songs in the data structure with at least 3 genres. So try to mix that up. I'll give you a tip here just so you can at least kind of visualize what I'm talking about here. So if I show my console here. You'll see here when I have a window, window loaded. I have my array that's kind of ready to go. You can see it's an array of objects. Inside of the objects, there are the keys. And inside of those keys, well, that's where I get my information to display in the table when I'm filtering, those kind of things, right? So that's what my data set looked like. I think I have 17, right? So, and then I wired up, you know, again, like as you're searching, I'm console logging. You don't have to do that, but you know, it certainly helps for debugging purposes, right? So we're going to learn we're going to use what we learned this section. So submission again will be Blackboard. Include a README file that gives again the name, your name and student. If you're solo or you have a group of two, it says T. Sorry, that's a typo. Members of the team, right there. So I need to know who's in your group. So when I go to assign marks, I don't miss anybody. Instructions for running. Well, you know, this one's pretty self-explanatory, really. Unless you have it on web hosting, it's great. You submit your code. You point me to the web hosting URL. That's awesome. That helps me so much, especially when we get into like Node.js, because then I mean, wow, that's 5%. Because it's a lot of work to get set up, and it helps me greatly, right? However, okay, so getting back to the specification, the breakdown. So that search form, the search form on all that criteria is 25%. The results. So the results is a little higher, 35%, because you're dealing with not only the table, but you're dealing with the filtering. So the filtering logic. So you're basically grabbing all that information from the form, that criteria, and you're searching and filtering. You're building that table out. You're hiding it and all that stuff. So the favorite list is 15%. So that, again, most of it's driven from the table. Like when you click favorite, that's all inside of that table and the results. The favorite list is really just rendering it and then you're removing it. So I put 5 for UX design. I know most people got bonus marks. Not most people. Some people already put the work in for that, but if you hadn't, you can get something. There's not a lot of changes from the first submission, but you may improve yours. Clean code and clarity. So I may have put comments on the, you know, what you're looking for. You want to kind of be mindful of how you're arranging things, not leave a lot of sloppy, unused code in there, and try to clean it up a bit with indentation and readability and those things like that. Demonstration of providing concepts. So yes, leveraging. Again, first goal is always to make it working. You always want to make it working. That's like half the battle. And then when you get it working, maybe you need to go over factor, clean it up. At least be mindful of that. And then, you know, you may want to start using some things if you have time, like some of the things we learned, like ES6, those kind of things. So demonstration of programming concepts includes the logical approach, how you went about it. JavaScript best practices, what we learned, the DOM level API. So you're right, you want to leverage that API, that whole thing we learned with window in the document for DOM traversal, event handlers, manipulation. And then if you feel like you're comfortable enough, you can use some of that ES6 syntax where possible, if you can fit it in, right? If you can't, that's not too much of a big deal if you can't use the ES6 syntax. But if you can, it's considered more. What I'm looking for is, you know, you understand how to use the APIs. You research the fact, hey, there may be some array built-in methods that are going to help me a lot here. I might as well use them instead of doing some really long-winded coding, right? So spending time on the documentation and using the right tools for the job. Bonus mark. Deployed the web hosting. Some people did, it's already set, but it always helps me, so I'll give something there, 2%. And then if you can implement remembering the previous favorite selection, again, I'll have to show that piece. Really what happens is when you select something, if you refresh the page or you navigate away to like Google or something, come back, it'll read from local storage and just populate that list for you. So that's like 3%. And that's basically it. Again, it may look like a little small project, right? And it may certainly be straightforward for some, it may be challenging for others, but just know that test it out. When you get it working, you're going to find some bugginess, right? As I did. myself to make sure that I did it before assigning it to you. Um, and then go, make sure you spend some time, time to make sure that you actually test it out, so there's not too many bugs. If you can do all that, that's 25% of the mark. And again, it's just to recap, it's due Monday, November 7th, 25% of the grade. So you got 2 weeks. I'll post this up on Blackboard. I'll post this in the Slack channel. I'll attach the video to the requirements, drop it in there as well. And hope you guys can look at it during this week off, get ahead of the game, and we'll see you when you get back. All right. Thanks, guys.